I,
Okay.
all right, I did. Hi, everybody. Um, Thanks for joining us for Love is Possible over 40, 50, 60, and beyond. We are Silver Sisters Speak. And don't touch that dial because for the next 30 minutes or so, we're going to talk about a hot topic, and it's abusive relationships. I'm too old for this toxic mess. And, we're going to talk about, in light of the current events with what's going on with Diddy and Cassie and all the stuff that we're seeing and everybody coming forward, we thought this would be a really relevant topic. And for us mature folks, we're not asking, we're saying, I'm too old for this toxic mess. But let me introduce everybody. We have our usual Silver Sisters Speaks. We have Sheila Agnew McCoy. Sheila's Fit 50 Plus. And Sheila's going to talk to us about coming out of the closet of abuse the way, kind of the way Cassie came forward, making a way for others to come forward. So Sheila's going to talk to us about just coming out of that toxic mess and getting your freedom back. Next, we have Tracy Byerly, Unapologetically Gray. She's going to talk about a healthy vision for the future. Once you get out of that toxic, abusive relationship, you need to think about your future and you need to think about it actually before you get out so it can help you get out. And Tracy's going to talk about that. And I'm Adelina, Fly Granny BK. I'm, I'm here to inspire folks to positive aging and vibrant living in all areas of life, from beauty, lifestyle, and dating over 50. I'm going to start with my topic. How did we get there? How do we get into toxic relationships, and why do we stay? We can all agree that there are three types of abuse: verbal abuse, psychological abuse, and physical abuse. And all are equally harmful and destructive. And I myself was in a verbally abusive relationship. And people think that verbal abuse isn't as bad, but it can just tear you down to nothing, and you no longer know who you are. And it could be pretty miserable. I had someone telling me that I didn't do anything right. I didn't say anything right. I didn't wear anything right. And you're stuck feeling like, oh my God, who am I? What am I? So that's an abuse that is like really tears at your soul and the core of your being. So how do we get here, and why do women enter abusive relationships? Um, Number one, uh, you're attracted to this person. The person can be very charming. The person can be very persuasive and manipulative. And if you are blindly in love, you may not see these things happening gradually because they're so charming, and you're so like enamored with the personality. And abusive behavior can start gradually in that kind of way. Sometimes people are in the habit of attracting abusive relationships, and Sheila mentioned that. Attracting the same type of person over and over, and then you're in the same situation over and over. And that's going to happen unless you change yourself and your mindset. So Sheila probably talk about that, and Tracy as well. Self-esteem, lack of confidence, not believing that you can do better or find someone better, um, or someone else that's going to treat you better, or thinking that you're not worthy of someone better can cause you to just freeze and be stuck in that type of situation. So those are just a couple of things, and you can share in the comments below some other things that I might be missing. Why do women stay in abusive relationships? Um, Number one, fear and intimidation. Um, we saw with Cassie how Diddy just came after her, running after her. You know, she had no shoes on and she was just trying to get away, and here he comes. So, I don't think this was the first time. We know that this has been happening over and over, and she was actually trying to get away. But it's the fear of your abuser, a fear of the unknown, and again, just being lost and frozen in that fear, and being stuck somewhere between fear and shame. Emotional dependency. You're so dependent on that person, and it's could be a codependency. He needs you to abuse and you need him to abuse you, and you're in a cycle of abuser and victim. And the thing that happens sometimes is that you rock back and forth between pain and passion, the abuse and then the fabulous makeup sessions. And I know that happens in a lot of relationships, and it can become a habit. So you don't realize how unhealthy it is because you're just in it. And you hang on, and you're hoping that it gets better, and it doesn't. um, I think I mentioned economic dependence. One party doesn't have the financial resources, the other person is paying all the bills, and you depend on your abuser for necessities. So you'll just take the abuse to survive. So time goes on, years go on, and you're still in it, and it's hard to get out because you haven't thought about your future for yourself. So, these are some of the reasons why, I think people get in and stay in abusive relationships. And, again, I know that there's a whole lot more. And please feel free to put them in the chat. And next, we have Sheila, who's going to talk about coming out of that closet and ending the cycle of abuse. And with that, passing it to you, Sheila.
Hello, everyone. I'm Sheila Agnew McCoy. I am a senior and women's fitness specialist. I'm a fitness coach, actually, and I'm passionate about teaching and speaking about health and healthy relationships and healthy mindset and age positivity. Actually, I'm really passionate about a balance of life, creating a balance in your life, total balance, mental, physical, emotional, spiritual, total balance. So that's what I do, and that's what I do in social media, and I do it, in my work as well. I want to tell you a little story. Years ago, I went on a vacation, and it was supposed to be a romantic vacation to a Caribbean island. But I left feeling great about going on a vacation. And I came home feeling the worst I've ever felt before because I was with someone who thought I was looking at another guy, and he got totally angry and attacked me. And that scene with Cassie coming out to the elevator and everything. That wasn't quite me. I don't think I would have quite let him go that far, nor me from the south side of Chicago. That would not have happened. But I was in the hallway, and I ran to an elevator, and I ran and I got police. But I still had 2 or 3 more days on this trip, and I stayed in the room the whole 2 or 3 days. I didn't go out. And that was my thing. Uh, that was my one physical abuse in a relationship, and that was my last because it was difficult because this person was also a business partner of mine, so it was a financial situation as well as a relationship, a personal relationship. So I knew at that point I had to think with my mind. I had to think smart. And that's me. Everyone is not at that point. I don't want to say that that's everyone. I'm just telling you my story. But I knew because it was my I was financially dependent on the business that I had to carry that another way. So eventually I did. I saved money. I didn't have to leave my house, but I didn't have to leave my house, but I had to get that person out of my house. So the first thing I started thinking about what were my moves going to be and how I was going to do that. And eventually you catch I found out that when you're being abused, don't try to leave at that moment unless your life is in danger. And I think potentially my life would have been in danger, but um, I don't try to leave at that moment. That's the worst time to leave. So I waited until it was a time when things would calm down and everything. And literally, I just picked up the phone and told his sister to come and get him right now. She came and got him. I never had to deal with him again. I walked away from my business. It was financially a hardship for me, but I thought my life was more important than that person or that business. And I walked and I kept going. I had to pay all that debt by myself, and I didn't have any problem with it because I was free. And that's what I mean when I said we have to come out the closet. We've been in the closet too long. Some of us have been in abusive relationships, both emotional and physical. Some of us know someone who has been in the relationship, as myself. I've talked to, I blew in the face to some of my family members, and they still, didn't get it. And then finally, some got it, and some still dealing with it. But we have to be a support mechanism to try to help people who are in the closet. And when we come out the closet, we have to leave the skeleton in there. We have to be ready to leave the skeleton in there because if you're going to go back, it's going to be the same thing over and over and over. I don't have statistics, but I'd be willing to bet that it rarely changes. And if it changes, the person is unable to do it because they're sick or something. It just does and thank God sometimes God steps in it and God changes the person. We know that to be happening. But traditionally, the pattern is that the abuser is the abuser. And the reason why the abuser is the abuser most times is because they have been abused. They have to learn that from somewhere. And so when we come out the closet, we take the key, lock it, throw it away, keep walking, and never go back. And that's easily said and done. Said and it's not easy to do, and especially as we get older, because as we get older, we're more vulnerable to abuse. Why? Because we are older, we may be lonely. We may be widowed and coming back out dating. We might be financially unstable and a nice target for someone. So there are many, and then sometimes we may be physically unable to do things for ourselves, and that's where the abuse may come in. So what we have to work at doing as individuals, we have to work at building strong minds. We have to work at a healthy prayer life, and we have to work at having strong minds. Our minds have to be spiritually and mentally strong to get through those kind of situations. And I'm talking about physical and mental, because someone telling you all the time, "You look terrible. You're ugly. You're not pretty. You're dumb. You're this and you're that." That start to work on your mind. And then you start believing, you look in the mirror, well, I don't look that good. Well, am I ugly or whatever? And then the person turns around and says, you look so good. I love you so much. I love you. That's the main reason that an abuser can be an abuser, because they have you caught up in the love cycle, as well as you are a target because they see you as vulnerable because you've already given in. And I've heard some stories that are so even worse than the ones we saw on TV with Cassie and Diddy or whatever his name is. They are worse than that. I just heard a lady say she for 2 years it was a gun to her head every time there was an argument. That is crazy. But that kind of love is crazy love. And a
Mhm.
lot of the younger ladies don't even realize that they're being abused because they never dealt with anything like that and they're too young to really know about it. So they think that that's the way relationships should be, but it's not. So what do as older adults, as older women and men? We teach our women, we teach our young girls, we teach them what not to accept, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Like I always tell my grandchildren and my daughter, you know what you don't want. So if you know what you don't want, don't accept it. If it's not for you, don't accept it from anybody. No love is that strong. None. So you deserve a healthy, happy relationship. And that's what you need to work on. So I say come out the closet, break the silence, break the chains, and leave the skeleton in the closet. We are so much more than we give ourselves. We are so much more valuable than we give ourselves when we allow ourselves to stay in an abusive relationship. The time to get out is the first time that it happens. Because if it happens one time, it's going to happen again, and then you'll get comfortable with it because, like Adelina said, the love is just so good. And so it's not really better than your life. And that's what you have to think about. Ultimately, is your life and your children and your family. And for me, I'm just going to tell you a secret. What I just told you about myself, I've never told anyone. And that's how serious this is to me. And for me, I probably have some hangups because of that. So
Mhm.
this is a release for me. And that's happened many years ago. Oh, maybe as long as 30 years ago. But
Mhm.
that's a release. You have people that are in their 80s and 90s still holding on to abuse because they've never gotten help. They've never released it. And sometimes when you're 80 and 90 years old, you didn't know that you could. You didn't know that you could say things. Even young women and now don't know that they have a place to go, don't know that they can say things. But we can. We could speak. That's the most important thing that we could do, you guys, is
Mhm.
speak out.
Mhm.
Speak about it. Tell someone. The more you tell someone that you can trust, the better off you're going to be because then you'll have a support system. And like I said, get that help, get that spiritual help, and get that counseling. And that's why I'm going to turn it over now to Tracy because that's what she does, y'all, this time. So here we go.
Thank you so much. Hi, y'all. I am Tracy Byerly, and I am unapologetically great. I help women and men to create a confident, prosperous attitude about aging so they can master the art of aging unapologetically. This is a very passionate topic to me. And oh, by the way, let me apologize. I am one of the thousands in the DFW Metroplex without electricity. So shout out to the neighbor for the extension cord all the way across the street so I can have a little bit of light and battery power for my laptop.
And thank you for coming on. You came
Yes.
on. We're so happy. She said, I'm coming on as
I'm
I
coming
am.
on.
All
I
right.
couldn't miss this. Number one, to be with my sisters, but because I am very passionate about this, really what it boils down to is all about your decisions, and I'm going to give you some tips behind it. I want to speak to those that are either pre-dating or dating. Y'all know I always start with going within, and it begins with your self-love. And a red flag for you, and if you haven't seen our red flag series, please go back and watch it. If you are abusive in self talk and how you treat yourself, you are already a red flag. You might want to stop for a moment and take yourself off the market for your protection. Why? Because you may possibly invite toxicity into your life because of your already turmoilous relationship with yourself. That is a red flag. Understand that when you have self-love, and I'm not just talking about the external, I'm talking about for your inner essence as well as self-care. When you have those things, you raise your value. And when your value is raised, you're not going to put up with too much toxicity from anyone else. Remember, you've heard me say it many a times, you treat people how to teach you. And it starts with what you're modeling for them. For my dating people, if you find yourself in a toxic relationship, I love how Adelina and Sheila touched on the love bombing and the cycles. Know this, your inner essence knows when something does not feel right. If you cannot trust your inner essence, that is what you have a circle of people around you for. You know those ones that they're like, that one sounds a little controlling. They don't talk to you right. They're kind of possessive. You might want to pay attention to them because they see something you may not be discerning and seeing. Also, it's time to take a look. I want to be the one to sock them rose-colored glasses off like a bully in the midst of this abusive talk, because you need to be able to see and hear what your loved ones are saying. And if you are prone to dating secretly undercover, you don't want to let nobody know, then all of a sudden you jump up, I'm in love, but the mess has already started. I'm going to caution you to stop that, because if you're in a cycle of this, that undercover stuff is where it breeds for more darkness, and then it's eventually exposed.
Yeah.
That's what you have an inner circle for. Next, I want to address those who may be married. If you are in a toxic marriage, and let me just go here. I'm getting ready to kick over some sacred cows, and I'm probably going to get in trouble with the church. I don't want y'all's energy. You send your energies towards healing for the people we're getting ready to address here. But I'm going to say this, and I'm a church-going woman. If you are getting counsel from leadership that is not addressing your physical and mental safety first, run far and fast. Run. I guarantee you that those same people that are giving you counsel, that you stay in it because that's what the word says, and the word is right, but they're giving you that counsel, guarantee you they will not take the counsel that they're giving to you. While I don't advocate divorce right off the bat, because I do believe that there are success stories that the Lord can turn things around. Yes, He can. At the end of the day, I do believe in separation when it comes to someone's mental and physical safety. Anytime you're about to get killed or you're about to commit homicide or suicide, that is where we need to draw some lines for the sake of safety. And then you get professional help. You get professional help apart. You cannot fix a marriage if the two people are not fixed. You fix the people first, then the marriage will be fixed itself. As far as you're in it, but you can't just leave yet, like Sheila said. A lot of people are like, why don't you get out of it? And I'm talking to men and women, because there are just as many men who are in abusive relationships as women. But people are saying, why don't you get out? Well, it's a benefit versus cost. And as both ladies said, often finances are tied, assets, because sometimes people get into contracts before they get into for real commitments, and it's going to be hard to get out of it. Or you may be dealing with stalker and eventually death threats. Your life could be in danger. So it is very important that you begin to prepare, and it does start mentally. You have to have a vision for yourself, for your future, that is so compelling. Your heart, your whole fiber, your whole being just feels it. And that's what you latch on to. I remember in my marriage that I had a vision that my child and I would be sitting in front of a fireplace, drinking hot chocolate and reading a book together. And I held on to that vision. And guess what? It happened. You need that compelling vision. And the next thing that you need to do is know where your location of safety is going to be. Finances is usually a huge anchor for keeping people in relationships. So if you need to start socking aside a little bit of money at a time in a secret savings, so that if you need to make that escape, you don't have to depend on the main house account. You have your own money. And then know who's going to be your support. For some of you, this might be reminders. Sink it in. For somebody who needs this information, please forward it on. The next thing that you need to do is get you a getaway bag. And that was something that I learned early. In that bag, I had all important documents: the marriage license, house deeds, child's immunization. If you have passports, if you have other licenses, anything that's important, so that you can snatch it and go in the event of a dire emergency and you have to run. If you can't hide it in your house, make sure that that bag is somewhere with someone where you have easy access. Next, I want to address the people who refuse to leave. And before I address them, I need the public to know this. There are some people who are wired, and it sounds strange, but if you take it off and just listen for a moment, perhaps that person was in the mother's womb and the mother was being abused. A lot of stuff goes on in the womb that people are transferred out like this. There are some people that are just dispositioned to pain, who their self-esteem is so low that they punish themselves because of all of the poor choices that they made. So I deserve this. Or it could be generational. You saw abuse. Maybe the abuse wasn't in your house like it was in mine, but both of my grandfathers were extremely abusive towards women and children. And whatever that was, it just dumped on me. And for whatever reason, it just was familiar. This stuff is real. We can't knock people for that because we don't know how they're wired. However, I'm speaking to you who refuse to leave. And I am saying this with the utmost compassion, but hear me and hear me good. You might be in denial or minimize, oh, this is nothing. It doesn't feel good, but ain't nothing gonna happen to me. We want you to know that you have family members who love you and are so concerned about you and your welfare, possibly your life. So if you are not going to leave, I'm going to recommend this to you: to not be a burden on your family and to be a blessing to your family. Go on, get you a will made. Go ahead and pick your power of attorney and your executors and get your whole funeral arrangements laid out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm so serious, because you just never know how and when, or it may even be you sitting in jail because you snapped and did something you had no business doing when pushed to the edge. Married people, you can't leave. I recommend that you get with an attorney and see what it would be like to create a separate will in the event that your abusing partner ends up incarcerated or dead due to revenge, because somebody is going to need to be able to have access to everything to shut your affairs down. If no one's name is on your stuff, they can't close your stuff out and close it down. It's going to be a fight. Give that to your family if you choose to stay in toxic relationships where you know it's a possibility your life is going to be in danger, or one day you're going to snap.
Mhm.
I close everything that I'm saying. Oh, wait, let me back up for my church people. I got to go there. If the Lord can forgive the worst of worst sinners, surely He can forgive you for making a rash vow to get married. But I'm going to say the flip side of this: go and sin no more. Don't take God's grace for grease and slide right on into another toxic relationship. Take yourself off the market, get you some professional help, learn how to love yourself, and then you can love someone else.
Mhm.
To every person, I say that you are so much more than your body parts, your professions, your possessions, and your performances. You deserve the utmost love, but that begins with advocacy for yourself first. If you find that you cannot be an advocate for you, please, again, get yourself some professional help, because self love, that starts with you.
Number one. Mhm.
Number one. I turn it back to my sisters.
I love that. I love that you brought up some great points.
Mhm.
Um, I like one of the, you talk about being in a marriage, and the other thing I've noticed, there's people who were uh, were haven't got married yet and have been abused, but because they wanted to get married, they went on and got into the marriage anyway. So it's like you give your heart out, you give the best information, you give everything that you could give, and the thing about it is they're not going to budge. You're not going to budge until you get ready to. And we pray that people stop waiting until it's too late, because the
Yes,
longer you're in the relationship, the more difficult it's going to be, because the abuser is comfortable with abusing you. So if you leave them, that's like emptiness in their life. Unless they find someone else, then they're going to come looking for you. And so you gotta clear yourself. And like I said, it really, with what we said, all of us said something very meaningful. But if it doesn't click to you or someone that you know, because I'm a believer of sticking with people that are going through that. But if it doesn't click with you, if you don't want to do it, you know, I had a family member that just jumped in the car and drove and never looked back. So you just have to, keep motivating and inspiring people, and know that you can't change them, but you can offer that they get some counseling to help them through. And they don't have to go, the person doesn't have to go with them. They can go by themselves,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
I like that. And I also like the fact that you brought up visualizing yourself, how you want to see yourself. I know
yes,
you don't want to be scared to go to sleep, or scared to say something, or scared to go to work because you might get accused of something, but visualize yourself in the position that you want to be in. I think I
yes.
told you guys I visualized myself in a fantastic job on an island somewhere. So, you just have to visualize what you want to do. So that's what I have to say, and I thank people for their comments as well.
Yeah, I see some really good comments. Sherry said she thinks that people ignore the red flags out of a sense of feeling desperate for a relationship, and that's a big one. People are
Mhm.
afraid to get out, and don't think anything good is going to come their way. Um, Boy, this was deeper than I was. It got really deep, and you ladies brought up some amazing points. Tracy, I love the getaway bag, right? Like have
Did
it
that.
ready. Have it
Mhm.
ready. That's something to think about because if you have to get up out of there quickly, you just and out, and we don't often plan things like that. So
Not a
that
problem.
that is a really good point. And Sheila,
And
I wanted to ask you because I think you had mentioned that you have tried to talk to people in your family that were in those situations. How does one do that if they see it happening? How do you approach
That's a good question.
well, I just approach it. I
that?
just say,
Okay, okay.
well, but I try. It hurts when it's someone that you don't know, but it really, really hurts if it's someone that you know. And I just keep talking to them, keep
Okay.
praying with them, praying for them.
Right.
And I had a family member, I used to stay on the phone for 3 or 4 hours. I mean, I was drained the 3 or 4 in the morning. But you just have to keep talking to them and just showing them what the true life is. And one thing I know about most the people that I personally know that have been abused, they know it's wrong. They know that's not how they want to live. They already know that that's not the life that but
Mm-hmm.
they're drawn back in by most of those things that we talked about. And
Mm-hmm.
so you pray and you talk to them, and one day they'll come out the closet and loose the chain. And that's, you suggest counseling and all that. But you know that they know. I know that they already know, you
Right.
know. But
Right.
so you just have to don't give up. That's all I say. I don't give up on anyone that's going through that kind of thing because that's really not a, it's not a beautiful thing. It's not a nice thing. And like I said, there's no love, no greater love than yourself and God. God first, then you.
That's right. That's right. And then also the people that they leave because they know it's not right and then they still go back. So
Mhm.
there's another dynamic with that going on. Like there's really like some deep seated like if you guys read that Cassie after that abuse went back to the hotel and felt bad about what happened, that she left and all that. So it's a whole mindset, but I'm glad she finally broke it.
I'm glad the security turned her away and told her not to go back up there
Right.
because they
Oh,
said they saw it all, and because I don't think she would be here.
right. Right.
There's one thing I usually, and it just a harsh reality thing, but I say that a person leaving an abusive relationship is like a prostitute leaving her pimp. One of
So,
three things is going to happen. He or she is going to find them and take them out,
Mm.
sitting duck. Or the prostitute may run, but feeling bad or whatever, go back and be abused even worse. And lucky if they ever get to escape again, or that prostitute is going to run far and fast and never look back. So I would say to you, which choice are you going to choose? And it
mhm,
really comes down to that. No matter what move you make, yes, your life depends on it. And for the people on the outside looking in, that's why I said before, you might deny and minimize what's going on with you, but your loved ones are experiencing everything that you experience when you're in these toxic relationships. It
mhm,
doesn't just affect you, it affects everybody
mhm.
around you.
Mhm.
Absolutely. And I'm glad you brought that up because another analogy to the pimp, if you notice, most pimps are really not attractive.
Mm.
No,
No, now that you mentioned
I ain't gonna name no names, but they got that, and they have that thing that they know who to tap on, they know who they can tap, they know who's
mm,
vulnerable, they know who has a low self-esteem, they
mhm.
know who the father wasn't in the house or they never felt love. So the only thing they felt is abuse. So you think it's okay to be abused. But you have to look at those kind of things, and it makes sense because I know one his sister said, I don't know what they saw in him. but, you know,
They got that charm
and
swag, you
and
know.
looking from our perspective, we don't either. But there are some people who see that and we can't see it, so we don't see why they stay.
Mhm.
People say, I don't know why they stay because I wouldn't have stayed or whatever. But if you've never been in that situation, you you know you never know.
Yeah,
Yeah, say
reading.
that.
Go ahead.
I was saying, don't say what you don't never. I've told the story once before, and I'll tell it again. A sister friend of mine who was in abusive relationships, and I was young and hadn't been through anything. I'd cuss her up one side and down the other and tell her how stupid she was until I got into mine. You better believe that after I got out of that abusive situation, I hunted her down and I asked for her forgiveness because we can't say what we won't do if we've never been in that toxic mess. The key
Right.
thing is go and sin no more
Yeah,
Hmm.
and
yeah.
get you some help.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people judging in the comments, when I read all this stuff. Well, she shouldn't have stayed in there that long. And, on the surface, you look at it and say, yeah, 10 years, but we don't know like what was going on in there and, what that cycle was. So, I think people need to lighten up and understand every circumstance is
It's
different.
different.
And,
She's 17, 18 years old.
right,
We don't know what her home life was like, but she got
right.
pushed into a life of glamour and glitz and money and all of that. So I'm
Mhm.
sure that
Unprepared.
was, yeah, I'm sure
And
that,
being drugged and
right,
stuff. So,
right.
who knows?
So
She
I'm
could.
sure that, but like I said, we weren't there. We don't know, but we can imagine
Right,
someone that young being pulled into that environment, and you look plus that there was a great age difference, so that could have been a father figure. So it's a
right.
lot of things that go on out here, and that's just stuff that's out in the news. The stuff that we don't read about maybe a lot of times are worse than that. So I really think that this is a wonderful thing to be able to have this conversation. And
Yeah.
that's what we're having. We're not diagnosing anyone. We're just being real because we're real people who have had real experiences, and we like to bring to you conversations about experiences that we think, as older adults, as more mature adults, that we think people that relate to us and what we've experienced and what we've done through we want to do, and it's definitely related to the dating and marriage.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yes.
And we were going to be 30 minutes long and we went over cuz it's such a deep hot topic and a
Mhm.
very important topic. So, Sheila mentioned, hang on, let me get that helpline. Hold on. Let me find that banner. So, if anybody needs help, um, there's this national domestic hotline. So you can
Please use
call
it.
it. Yeah, you can call it. You can give it to someone that you know who needs this help. So
Or
any
and there are local organizations that you can uh, research and call as well. And then there's a wealth of information online. But if you need help right away, get help.
One
right,
thing I forgot to mention, and I'm going to make this real quick, make a safety contract with your inner circle. And in that safety contract, it's going to give things like what is your code word for when you're in trouble?
Mhm.
What are the list of very important people that need to be contacted on your behalf? What is your place of emergency that you will go to? Will there be clothes, money, and other items waiting for you in that, wherever that location is? Just drop a contract and keep that between the inner circle so that when things pop up, people know what to do.
Very
That's good.
ex-
That's a good point.
Thank you.
excellent. Mhm.
So, yes, you ladies have anything to say to wrap it up before we sign off? I
Yeah.
think we said a lot.
Yeah.
I think we
But
said,
if after we finish, if people want to contact us, DM us, or contact us, please feel free to.
Yes.
right, right. And as always, if you have other topics or if you want to continue this topic, you have other things you want to talk about, always let us know. Contact us. And can they see our information when we come up? Let's see. Okay.
It's still the domestic.
Okay. So I see our names below here, but I don't see them on the.
They're not on screen, but it may be the screen is too big.
Okay. Okay. So anyway, we have me. I'm Fly Granny BK. We have Sheila's Fit 50 Plus, and we have Unapologetically Gray. And you guys can reach us on Instagram, YouTube, and we'll have all the information below on our channels. So we thank you so much again for joining us, and stay tuned for more. So
Thank
thank you, ladies.
you. Okay.
Until next time.
Bye
Yeah.
bye.
Bye bye now.